Did you calm my fears with your Cheshire Cat smile? My arm. I swear, if one of these don't look good. 3, 2, 1. Oh, my talents are limitless. Hey guys, it's that time of the month. Hey guys, it's Lyric. Welcome back to another video. This is my second ever monthly wrap up and I am so excited for this. Today I'm going to be going through all of the books I read in July. But yeah, July was such like a weird month to me. It felt so long, but at the same time it felt extremely short. There's no in between. It felt either super long, super short, but it was a pretty good reading month for me. And I also think I improved in expanding the type of books that I read a little bit. I read some novels, romance, obviously. I read like my first dark romance. I read mysteries and thrillers as well. So it was a fun reading month. Had some great 5 stars, had some literal cries and breakdowns. And we're just gonna be going through the books that made me feel all the emotions in the month of July. Gotta have the good reads because sometimes I be forgetting when I rated stuff and I forget what the characters were named. I feel so bad when I forget the names of characters in books. Like, come on. Start off the month strong with Carrie, Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I was so excited to read another one of TJR's books because I read Malibu Rising the month before and really enjoyed it. This book is about a tennis player named Carrie, and we start off the book where she's at a match with her dad, who used to be her coach, and she's watching this girl named Nikki Chan tie her record for the amount of Grand Slam titles, I think. And so right then Carrie decides that she wants to come out of retirement and claim the title again as the best tennis player. So that is how this book starts off. And then we get to go through this whole story. We see her backstory of how she became a tennis player and how she got to the point that she was before the book started. And then we also get the whole story of her coming out of retirement, being coached by her dad again, and so many different things. One thing that Taylor Jenkins Reid is always going to do somehow is make her characters feel like real life people that are alive at the same time as me. If someone pulled up a tennis match right now and it was on the TV and they said, hey, Carrie Soto is playing, I would look at it and not even question it. She's 100% real. Like, are you kidding? She's there right now. I'm watching. I know absolutely nothing about tennis, yet I ate this book up. This book was so good. It had my heart racing. Like, during the tennis match and the championships and everything, I was so invested and it was so good. This is such a beautiful story and Carrie is such an interesting character. I ended up rating this 4 stars. I'd probably give it like 4.5 stars. It was so good and I was not going into this expecting me to like it so much, considering the fact that it was about sport I really know nothing about. But guys, just give TJR's books a try because they are so good, and I'm 2 for 2 so far. All of the books I've read of hers I have absolutely loved. Second book I read is Good Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. It is the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I believe there are 3 books in this series, but I did rate A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I gave it 5 stars. I was so excited for this. This second one is about Pip, and she's no longer a detective. She's decided to put that life behind her after she solved the whole mystery in the first book. However, she did create a whole podcast about that mystery and it kind of went viral. It got a bunch of like hits, views, listens, whatever it's called, and so that has blown up. But then we start off this book where she is going to a memorial for Andy Bell, who is the girl she's trying to solve the murder for in the first book. So they're having a memorial, the whole town is there, and soon after that memorial, Pip's friend Jamie Reynolds goes disappearing. And at first the police are like, it's really not a big deal, this guy's a whole grown adult, he's probably just trying to get away from his family for a little bit or something. Stuff is just not adding up, and she's like, no, he's in trouble. He's my friend and I can't just let this happen. Like, I know something is wrong. I'm gonna do something about it. So she uses her podcast to kind of spread awareness about Jamie and asking people to kind of help her solve his case and what's going on. Guys, Miss Jackson did not miss on this book either. She aced it with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and she aced it with this book as well. I'm telling you, the end is when I'm always like, what? Huh? This was such a wild ride. I really enjoyed it, and I love the way she formats her books. I get to see parts of her podcast, and then how she implements like emails or text messages or interviews that she's had with suspects, and then we get to hear Pip's thoughts and everything on what's going on. It's always such a fun time reading her books. I ended up rating this 4 stars, probably closer to 4.5, honestly. It's turning into a show or a movie. I can't remember. I believe they're filming it right now. I've been trying to like keep up with the author and see like what's going on. But the casting for this show slash movie is perfect, guys. It is so good. Like I cannot wait for it to come out because I will be watching it. Hopefully within August or the month after, I can read the last book in this series because it has been so good and I need to, basically. I'm tearing up right. Why am I tearing up? The Last Letter by Rebecca. The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. I don't know if her last name is Yarros or Yaros. I think it's Yaros. As you guys know, she's the author of Fourth Wing. Still probably one of my favorite reads of the year. So good. And Iron Flame is coming out in a few months. Don't even get me started. But I decided to give a different one of her books a try because I was like, if she wrote the masterpiece that is Fourth Wing, surely she can do a solid romance too. I don't know what she did. She nailed the romance, and this broke my heart. I was in tears. Oh my goodness. Let me just tell you what it's about. The back of the book, as you can see right here, is a letter, and this is a letter from Beckett, and Beckett is in the army. I don't know the right terms. He's like in the army, he fights, he does that type of stuff. So he's writing a letter, and he's writing it to his best friend named Ryan, and this is basically saying like, if you're reading this letter, I died and this is my last letter. So he's telling Ryan to go take care of his sister Ella because Ella is raising twins on her own, something that's tearing the family apart, and Beckett wants his best friend Ryan to go home and take care of his sister Ella. And the way this book starts off, Beckett is alive, and he tells Ryan, he's like, hey, why not write to my sister? Because Ryan is a very closed off guy. He doesn't really have any close family. He has no one. No one's out there to miss him or mourn him if he passes away, and he's just so closed off. Beckett's like one of his closest friends, and so Beckett tells him, he's like, hey, you should write to my sister. It's like, she could really use a friend right now. So Ryan and Ella start writing letters to each other, and we get to see those letters throughout the book. The thing is, Ryan signs all of his letters to Ella with his call sign. He never uses his actual name. He never ends his letters with his name, Ryan. They all say Chaos. So when Beckett passes away, Ryan decides to come to where Ella is and take care of her, except Ella doesn't know that Ryan and Chaos are the same person. She thinks they're two different people. She thinks that Ryan was one of Beckett's close friends, and then Chaos, who she's been writing to, is also Beckett's close friend. As soon as her brother Beckett died, Chaos stopped writing to her. So Ella thinks that Chaos died with her brother, but he knows her so well. They actually both know each other so well, but only Ryan knows this. Not only that, guys, Ella has 2 twin kids. I hate kids in books. I really just can't do it. The children in this book are angels. Absolute. It's not even like I liked these kids, I could tolerate them, they weren't annoying. They were some of my favorite characters in this book. Have such an emotional attachment to them. Please, for the love of, please read this book. I'm telling you, it is such an emotional roller coaster. I tried so hard to explain it. There's kind of a lot going on. It's easier to understand if you just start reading it. This is also possibly one of my favorite books I have read this year. I gave it 5 stars, 100%. Could possibly actually give this close to 6 stars. Basically, I guess Rebecca Yarros is like one of my top favorite authors. She hit it out of the park with this book. I could talk about this forever. Please, if you take anything from this video, read this book. Next book I read is Graysons Vow by Mia Sheridan. She also wrote Archer's Voice. Such a beautiful book. But this is about Kira and Grayson. Basically, Kira is trying to separate from her father. Her dad is like a super rich person. He's kind of in, what's it called? politics. He's very rude and annoying and very controlling, and Kira's trying to completely separate and get away from him. So Kira's at the point where she has no money, but basically one of the ways that Kira can get money is by getting her late grandmother's inheritance. But the only way to do this is to get married, because her grandmother wanted her to only inherit the money after she was married and like share it with her significant other. So Kira has to get married so that she can get this inheritance and get away from her dad and be free and just like be able to live on her own. She's sitting in her car and she sees Grayson Hawthorne walk out, and he also looks like he's losing hope, but the way he acts at that moment and like the things he does when he doesn't think anybody's watching, they intrigue Kira, and she's like, maybe this could be the man. Maybe this could be the man I marry. We both look like we need the money. Let's split it. So she tries to pursue that. Grayson was left with his father's vineyard, and he's trying to save it because it's in bad place. So he also really needs money. So yeah, it's kind of like a forced marriage, forced proximity. I was a little conflicted between 3 and 4 stars, but there were moments in the book where I got a little bored. I was just kind of like, I'm ready for something to happen, something exciting. However, this was a good book. I would still recommend it. They both kind of seemed to be interested in each other a little bit, but also this was such a fake and fast marriage that they almost like didn't want to fall in love, because they were like, this is so not what real love is. We just need the money, and then after a few years we can separate. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and it's definitely one I would recommend. But yeah, ended up giving this one 3 stars. Alright, next book I read was Hooked by Emily McIntyre. Not gonna lie, I was a little scared going into this book. I've never read a dark romance, and boy was it dark. This was such an unexpected read for me. My expectations going into this book versus how I felt coming out of this book were insane. I made a whole reading vlog on this book, so if you want to get more thoughts and stuff on it, I would definitely recommend watching that one, because that was a fun video to film and edit. This whole series is called the Never After series. This is the first book in that series, and it's basically about fairy tale villains getting their happily ever after, which I didn't know that until after the first few chapters, which made things make a little more sense. This is about Wendy and James. James is like Captain Hook. Hook is actually his nickname, as you will see if you read this book. James is in this whole kind of drug dealing, big crazy business thing. Wendy is the daughter of Peter, and Peter killed James' dad, I think. I kind of forgot who he killed, but Peter is basically the person that James is after. Like, he has lived his whole life trying to get to the point where he could kill Peter, but James ends up low-key kind of loving Wendy. His ultimate goal was to use Wendy to get to Peter and just demolish him, and also demolish Wendy. I mean, he did kind of you know what, never mind. I ended up giving Hooked 4 stars. I believe Emily actually has a new book in this series coming out. Oh, I think it's August 1st. I actually do want to read this whole entire series. This book it's definitely not for everybody, but I ate it up. That's all I gotta say. I actually highly recommend watching my reading vlog on this video, because it's kind of funny. It'll give you an idea as to if you want to read this series. Next up, I read Love on the Brain by Allie Hazelwood. Love Theoretically was the first Allie Hazelwood book I read last month, and I ate it up. Absolutely love this. I've had this on my TBR for a really long time, and so after I read Love Theoretically, I was like, I need to read all of Allie's books. So I finally read this one. As you guys know, I feel like Allie has a theme when it comes to her books. She writes a lot of stuff like in the scientific, doctory, medical field type of thing, and I have no knowledge on this, except somehow I eat her books up. This one is about Bee and Levi. Bee ends up getting put onto this big project for NASA, and it's with Levi. However, Bee has known Levi in the past, and she thought he actually hated her. Like, she genuinely thought this man was out to get her, because throughout their whole academic careers and stuff, he was just really rude to her and would avoid her and would do anything to not be with her. Turns out that was not, guys, that was not the case. Also, Bee runs a Twitter account that's like really big. It's kind of like a women empowerment type of thing, but it's under a different name. It's not her actual name. And then another guy that she also talks to on Twitter, who runs another scientific account that's pretty big. She's friends with him online on Twitter, and it actually turns out to be him, but they don't know who is who. Like, they don't know they're talking to each other. And Levi is literally talking to Bee about being obsessed with a girl his whole life, and it's her, and she doesn't even, But yeah, all I gotta say, ended up rating this one also 4 stars. Ali Hazelwood, she could write the same type of book. This same type of book, just like a different font, and I'm gonna love it. That's the thing. Like, everybody says her books are the same. They are similar. There are similar things to it, but they're so good. Such a fun read. She makes me want to be a scientific girly. What can I say? I'm not gonna talk too much about these next few books because I have a whole video where I'm reading thriller books for a week, and this was the first one. I started off with Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I have heard so many great things about this. I was like, why not start this video with a solid Alice Feeney thriller? Guys, I don't know how Miss Feeney does it. I truly don't know how she does it. She aced it with this book. This book is about Mr. and Mrs. Wright. They end up winning a trip to Scotland? They end up winning a trip to somewhere, and basically they didn't win it by chance. This was very much a planned out thing. But yeah, they're both having troubles in their marriages, so they kind of want to go there. They want to see if that can kind of help their marriage out. Every year they give each other traditional gifts, and also Adam's wife will write a letter to him every anniversary. She doesn't give him those letters until now. So now is when he gets to see those letters. And it's been 10 years of marriage, 10 years of secrets, and an anniversary they will truly never forget. They're not gonna forget this one. Also, Adam has face blindness, so he can't like recognize faces, which was very interesting. I had never heard of that until I read this book. This book was definitely like a slow burn thriller, but guys, please read it because it was so good. I ended up rating this 5 stars, and I wish I could talk more about it. Like, I wish I could go on and on and on about it because I really could. I really think I could, but I don't want to spoil anything, and also I do have a whole video talking a lot more about these thrillers. Definitely go check out that video. I'm telling you, this one book turned me into an Alice Feeney stan for life. If Alice Feeney writes it, I want to read it. So drop your Alice Feeney thriller recommendations right now. I know she's actually coming out with a new one soon, and I want it. The next thriller I read, The Silent Patient by Alex M. I know this book was super big on Book Talk, and I know people had mixed opinions on it. Some people really, really liked it, and I feel like other people were like, what was that? I loved this book. This book is about Alicia. She basically kills her husband, shoots him 5 times in the face, and then goes silent. She went pew, 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 pew. And so she's in like a some psych hospital type of thing. And then there's this guy, he's a criminal psychotherapist. His name is Theo Faber, and he's very captivated by Alicia's case. He's like, I want to figure this out. This ain't normal behavior. I want to figure out what caused her to do this. The backstory is very vague. Like, that doesn't sound that exciting. Oh my goodness though, but the story really is. This has to be one of the books that I've read the quickest besides The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I read this within like a night. Like, I started it at the end of the day and I finished it the next day in the morning. And this book isn't really written short. Like, it has pretty small words. It has like 330 pages, but this was so good. We get to see Alicia's point of view through her letters, and then she also writes a diary, and then we also see Theo and like what he's trying to do to figure out what caused her to go. And then we also get a look into Theo's life. This will mess with your mind. It is so good, so enjoyable. Gave this one 5 stars as well. And this is one of those books that I will be recommending to people, and one that will just be stuck up here for quite a while. Okay, last thriller I read for my thriller video was The Housemaid Secret by Frida McFadden. Comes right after The Housemaid. Like I mentioned before, Housemaid was such a good book. I read that one really quickly and also gave that one 5 stars. We are still with the main character, Millie. She gets called into another sketchy job with another couple. The man's name is Douglas Garrick, and so she's working with him, and he's showing her around the house, and he's like, don't go into that room. My wife is super sick. And Millie's like, okay, no, yeah, for real, that's chill, I got you. And she's like cleaning up the house, but at the same time she's like, why is this house already so clean? Like, what do I even need to do? Why am I here? So she ends up just doing a few tiny little things, and then while she's doing the laundry, she's like, oh, that's interesting, there's blood on the neckline. Not normal. That's a little off. And then also she's been working there for a while, and she realizes she still hasn't gotten to meet Mrs. Garrick, and she's like, It's been a month. Is Mrs. Garrick still sick? I haven't seen her face. What is going on? And so she ends up getting to talk with Mrs. Garrick for a little bit, and Millie starts to learn a few things, and boy, stuff starts to happen, that's for sure. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. If I would have read this book before I read The Housemaid, I probably would have ended up rating it 5 stars, but since I have read The Housemaid, there were some similarities and things that I was able to predict a little bit more, but still at the same time it was so good, and there were still plot twists that I did not see coming. This book, you can actually read this before you read The Housemaid. Either way, they're still gonna make complete sense, really, whichever one you feel like reading first. But Freida McFadden, her writing style, it really keeps you engaged, and I have really not heard anyone say anything negative about Freida McFadden. I'm sure there are people out there that just don't prefer her writing style, but for the most part, I have only heard high praise about her, and I would agree. For the last book in this video, I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is the first book I have read by her. This was just a fun little cute romance, because you know, after reading 3 thrillers back to back to back, it was bound to happen. So this is about, what's his name? How do I forget the names of characters? I just read this book yesterday. Literally, what is his name? Okay, we're gonna go with Austin because I think that's his name. This is so embarrassing. I just read this. What is his name? Okay, I got it. His name is Ewan. How did I forget that name? It's I-W-A-N. I think it's Ewan is how I pronounced it. So yeah, this is about Clementine and Ewan. Basically, Clementine, she's a book publicist, and her aunt, who she was very, very close with, passed away and left her her apartment. And as a kid, Clementine's aunt told her that the apartment would sometimes send her back 7 years. She shared her story about how she fell in love with someone she met through the apartment that took her back 7 years. She always told Clementine to always take your shoes off before coming into the apartment, and to never fall in love, because you're gonna fall in love with someone who's 7 years in the past, and you're 7 years in the future. Just like, how is that gonna work? Clementine, she always thought that was kind of like not just like a fun little story until it happened to her, and she ends up in the past 7 years, and she meets this guy named Ewan, and this man was such a sweet soul. He's a cook. He has big dreams of wanting to own a beautiful restaurant and honor his grandfather who taught him so many things about cooking. And the little interactions and experiences that Ewan and Clementine have anytime the apartment sends her back are the cutest, sweetest things ever. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, when I was going into this book, I was like, I don't really know about like the little magic aspect. Like, I just wanted a little romance. But the way this was done was really well, because the apartment sending her back was like the only magical thing, and it was very normal. It almost doesn't even feel like magic when you're reading the book, but this was such a cute story. I really enjoyed it, and it was the perfect thing I needed, obviously, after reading all of those thrillers. But yeah, I ended up giving this 3 stars. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend this. So those are all the books that I read in July. It was a very fun reading month for me. I'm proud of myself. I think that's the most I've read in a month since I started my book reading journey. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts were on these books, what you have on your TBR for August. Literally anything, comment, and I will respond. I just want to talk to people who like books. Feel free to follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I post a lot of book stuff. Sometimes I post about my life, but my life is books. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I love y'all so much, and I will see you in my next one. Bye. My camera is on fire. That's hot. Okay, if I hold it right. Oh my goodness. That's hot. Okay, bye.